Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the second meeting of the Tobacco Settlement Oversight Committee. Glad everyone's here. First of all, morning, senators, my fellow House colleagues. Does anyone would love to introduce a guest that they may have here today? I have one I'd like to introduce and welcome him here. And that's our grad fellow, Mr. Philip Combs is here with us today. Going to be with us quite often, and appreciate you being here today, and just wanted to recognize you. Thank you. Welcome to be here. Rachel, let's call the roll.
Senator Herron, Senator Mays-Bledsoe, Senator Reed, Senator Richardson, Representative Pfister, Representative Hancock.
Here.
Representative King. Representative McPherson. Representative Works.
Here.
Representative Dossett. Co-Chair Howell.
Here.
Co-Chair Pollock.
Here.
Here's a quorum.
So do I have a motion to approve the May minutes?
Second.
Motion is made and a second is made as well. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, opposed? Anyone? None? So the minutes are approved. Thank you so much. So let's move on to our agenda, and let's welcome to the floor the Kentucky Office of Agricultural Policy. Welcome to our meeting today. Please introduce yourself, and you may begin.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, honorable members of this Oversight Committee. Truly appreciate your all service to the Commonwealth of Kentucky. And we have, last month, we caught you all up on 5 months of activity from the Kentucky Office of Agriculture Policy with the Ag Development Board and Ag Finance Corporation. So now we are up to date. So we're going to catch you up on the month of May and report on the month of May. I want to dive right in. Commissioner Schell sends his greetings. I was with him last night at the Kentucky FFA Association, their state convention held in Lexington, Kentucky. It was their 96th convention, and he gave greetings on behalf of the Kentucky Department of Agriculture last night and did a remarkable job, and we'll probably have some updates on that next month. But on your screen and in your packet there is just some activity that during the month of May, you see there's a, on the far left there, there's that's right, the Junior Chef competition. That's always a highlight of the year. On the far right top, May was Kentucky, the Beef Month, National Beef Month, and of course Commissioner Schell signed a proclamation and proclaimed National Beef Month. But he did that proclamation and said some greetings there at the Bluegrass Stockyards. So that was that presentation. There on the bottom right, he was busy traveling. May, April is always a busy month for FFA chapters across the Commonwealth of Kentucky, and of course he was there speaking at one of those FFA chapters and did multiple chapters across the Commonwealth. As always, I'm extremely proud of our staff. Everything that is before you each and every month is an accumulation of a lot of hard work and dedication and sacrifice from our staff. They do a wonderful job making sure this money is spent correctly, spent efficiently, and have been for a while. But I just want to bring attention to our staff. I do want to take this one moment. We have several interns at the Kentucky Department of Agriculture this summer, and when they're here, I always promise them that I would try to embarrass them, but give them the opportunity to come before you all, tell them who you are. We have an intern here with us today. They're not interning with Kentucky Office of Ag Policy, but they are interning with the Kentucky Department of Agriculture. So at this time, I'll bring up one of our interns. So just hit that little green button, introduce yourself, and tell us about yourself a little bit.
Hi, I'm Rachel Coward. I'm from Taylor County, Kentucky. I had your wife in school, Mr. Pollock. And I'm interning with the Office of Consumer and Environmental Protection, and I'm currently about to be a senior at the University of Kentucky studying agriculture economics.
So thank you so much. So now we got to get selfies as part of it. All right, thank you so much.
Thank you.
And now it's kind of a sad occasion. We're losing one of our staff members, someone that has dedicated himself to the Finance Corporation. In fact, if in 17 and 18 he was a constitutional page, but Mr. Tara Roberts is leaving us basically at the end of this month, and he's going on to another career path. So I'm gonna bring up Tara. Tara, come on up. Tara, why don't you just tell everybody who you are, but just a couple of good memories from your time here at the Office of Ag Policy. Good memories, not bad memories.
Good memories.
All right.
Okay. Like Brandon said, I'm Tara Roberts. I'm one of the loan programs managers for the next couple of weeks. Good memories. Goodness. Bill, let's start with my first joint board meeting when we did 22 loans altogether. Kind of started drinking from a fire hose from the start, and just getting to know people throughout this job, getting to know our board members, and just getting to see agriculture from one end of the state to the other. So it's been fun.
So Tara, on behalf of our office, I know we're going to have a joint board meeting in a couple next Friday. And I know we'll have some good things to say about you, but we just truly appreciate your service to the Commonwealth of Kentucky. Appreciate your service and dedication, so thank you, sir. All right. Thank you. All right, we've been busy. So the month of May, as you can see, we just kind of switched the numbers a little bit. Ag Development Board had $4.3 million in investments. Ag Finance Corporation had $3.4 million in investments. Our staff was busy. With 2 staff members attended the competitive leadership programs with the Kentucky Agribusiness Leadership Academy, KALA. Staff attended the Kentucky Local Food System Summit in Lexington, Kentucky. And then in the month of May, we had 19 county Ag Council visits by our staff. And then approval breakdown, as you can see there, 25 county agriculture investment programs totaling $2.4 million, 4 deceased farm animal removal programs, 11 youth ag, what we call YATE programs, totaling $160,000, 10 county and state projects totaling just over $1 million. On our finance corporation, we had 3 agriculture infrastructure loans, almost $600,000, 2 agriculture processing loans at $430,000, and our infamous, what we're really proud of, is our beginning farmer loan program, which has made such an impact in this Commonwealth, just over $2 million. So now we're going to go to Bill and Brandon's top picks. So I will turn it over to my good friend and Bill McCloskey.
All right, thank you, Brandon. So we'll start on page 12 in talking about farm safety. And this is an opportunity for counties to commit their money. In this case, it's Bourbon County, $10,000, as you can see, purchase grain rescue equipment and training for members of the Bourbon County Fire and Rescue. So these are one of the reports. We hope they do not have any activity, that we're all safe on the farm, but this is just a backup to help in case of a situation of entrapment in a grain operation. The next is on page 19, talk about KCARD, Kentucky Center for Agricultural and Rural Development. Again, it's on page 19. So there's a request for $837,000 in state funds. So for those legislators who may not be familiar with KCARD, it kind of spun out of UK Ag Econ Department when they knew there was going to need for technical assistance. So it started with a couple employees. They're now close to 14 employees. Representative Dossett providing business technical assistance for farmers and agribusiness. So a lot of times we get calls from individuals or businesses that want to request funding either through Ag Finance or Ag Development Board, and we usually will start out with discussion of how's your business plan. Well, I'm working on it, or I need help. Well, you've got KCARD, Kentucky Center for Agricultural and Rural Development, that can provide that technical assistance in developing their business plan. So they go and meet with the applications with their staff. The part of this application is adding a couple of components to their program. First, starting with our loan program, Tara mentioned we have over 900 loans for $126 million in loans on the books. A majority of those loans, 70% or so, are beginning farmer loans that require a mentor. Up to this point, we've relied on extension personnel or maybe a neighbor farmer. So we feel like we want to take us to the next level and incorporate K-Card now, working with these beginning farmer applicants to be able to sit down with them, go through their business plan, and make sure they're aware of all the resources we have here in the state. A lot of these entities that the Ag Development Board supports are resources to our beginning farmers. So we want to make sure we can take that to the next level. Also, if you've been tracking, Farm Bureau recently completed a study on estate planning, seeing the value of transitioning family farms. And so based on that information, K-Card is now going to take on a technical assistance of sitting down with farm families, maybe in their kitchen, maybe it's an extension office, maybe it's a neutral site, to sit down with farm families here and talk about estate planning and transitioning of the farm. So K-Card is going to take on that part of the component going forward. So that's what's additional K-Card going to buy, plus all the technical assistance they're providing across the state. And I think they're up to about 14 employees. And so a lot of times they are extension of our office providing that technical assistance. And then we want to finish up on page 20, Mount Vernon Animal Clinic in Rockcastle County. They were approved for funding to purchase a vehicle to provide that ambulatory service on the farm, as well as additional equipment. And we updated you last month on one of the projects. So to date, since the Ag Development Board started the Large and Food Animal Veterinary Incentives Program in 2023, we have over 33 large food animal veterinarians have utilized this program for a total of almost $2 million. And they're required to get to receive county funds. We all know there's the county council structure. The way the board approved this program was make sure there's local support for a veterinarian requesting funds to buy a vehicle or equipment or make improvements to their veterinarian clinics such that they can be more receptive to a large and food animal services. So the way it's structured is for every dollar of county money that get committed, the Ag Development Board will match that with $5 up to 75% of the contract of the project, limited to $100,000. You can see in this application they were approved for $66,000 in state funds and $13,000 in Rock County funds. So we've looked. This has become a more popular program as we work to support large food animal veterinarian services across the state, which we all, I think, are aware that there is a shortage of that type of service, not only in Kentucky but nationwide as well. So with your all support, we're continuing to increase and improve that service for our livestock producers here in Kentucky.
Mr. Chairman, that concludes our report. I'd like to just bring everybody's attention to a very awesome event that's coming up next Friday. You all are more than welcome and invited. I know I invited you all last month, but I just want to remind you again, June 20th at the Kentucky Historical Society History Center downtown, we are going to launch our 25th anniversary, our silver anniversary of Office of Ag Policy, the Ag Development Fund, and just start that year-long celebration. We'll have a joint meeting. We're also going to have some presentations. We're also going to have a report by our KKMP report. And then we're also going to have a panel, excuse me, of past executive directors. I think Brian's going to be there. Warren Beeler's going to be there. John Mark Hack.
And Roger Thomas.
So we're going to have pretty much almost everyone. Yeah. I'm going to MC a panel that day during lunch, so that should be fun. And so just kind of a history lesson, a celebration of the last 25 years. And so it's going to be a true event. We're going to have lunch, of course, but the reason we're having it at the History Center, we always usually have it at the Extension office across town, but History Center is where it started at. So that's where the first meeting was. And I just talked to past Commissioner Billy Ray Smith. He's coming in. He's looking forward to the event. And so we're just going to have a good time. So please, you're all more than welcome to come. So, Mr. Chairman, that concludes our report.
Thank you so much. Committee members, there is a flyer in your folder talking about next Friday on the 20th. I highly, highly encourage you to attend. I think it's very informative and just it's going to be a good day to be here celebrating that anniversary. Would you care to put back up Bill and Brandon's top picks? We've got some questions here. I just want to say, first of all, these 3 picks are spot on. I mean, really are spot on a lot of the things that we've been discussing in our ag committee meetings and others. Our large animal veterinarians, protecting our family farmlands through our card action there. And so obviously fire and rescue opportunities to protect and help out is tremendous. So awesome 3 picks. We do have a couple of questions. Representative Rourke,
Thank you,
have the
Chair.
first one.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Bill, I wanted to ask about the large animal veterinarians. Are we starting to see an increase in the numbers that we're having? I know that that's been a big concern that we've been trying to tackle.
I think it's more of trying to support the ones that we have. I think there is a challenge of having more large food animal veterinarians, and we've had discussion with Auburn University maybe about their selection process that they're having on the 30 plus spots that the General Assembly supports. So if the selection process and those students that graduate from Auburn are going into small animal, then I think, again, it warrants maybe looking at their review process there at Auburn University. We've had some discussions with the Auburn University administration. They're receptive to considering the selection process.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Co-chair, Senator Howe.
There are other options out there to be able to control the selection process at state-supported and run veterinary schools that could potentially be there, just for the record.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
Pretty much my skill.
That wasn't subtle at all.
Thank you, co-chair, for that comment. I do have just a comment, maybe a question to Bill. You mentioned estate planning in that the card, K card funding. I'm going to use me as an example. My parents got 150 acres over right on the Meade and Breckenridge County line. Went to Campbellsville and grew up, and that a tool like that, estate planning and those type of things, obviously can help us and where we're at. Obviously, I could probably pick up the phone call and call you yourself. But that person back in Meade and Breckenridge, obviously I live in Taylor County, Marion, all those. Do we go to the extension office? Who would be our very first contact? Because transparency and providing this information is super important.
Yes, the front line would be the extension office to be able to connect with K-Card, but K-Cards are ultimately the entity or the contacts we want to see farm families making the contact. But we're going to make that information available. And in the past, Representative Pollock, we've had excellent speakers come into Kentucky and talk about estate planning and get farm families excited about it, but then not take the next step. And so this is what this funding with K-Card is going to do. Now we can actually have individuals with K-Card have the training to be able to sit down with farm families at the family farm kitchen, but maybe it ought to be at the extension office, maybe it ought to be attorney's office. Get away from the phone calls and make them check in their cell phones when they come into a neutral site to be able to talk about some tough issues with families.
Well, I appreciate that because, I mean, we have some outstanding programs, and the more I'm here and the more I know, and obviously I have this available, but a lot of our, good old farmers back in our counties and all, we just have to be able to somehow, some way let them know that, hey, we got a lot of opportunities. We got a lot of tools to help. So just wanted to make that.
And Mr. Chairman, also, I think you all had a presentation, the Farm Bureau's farmland transition conversation. I know the Farm Bureau Federation is also starting a conversation and providing some resources for that estate planning also, so they can also go down that path.
Okay, good deal. Good stuff. Thank you so much. Any other questions? Thank you so much. Appreciate that. Ms. Coward, welcome to Frankfort. I want a selfie with you, too, before we leave. That's okay. Next on our agenda, Community Farm Alliance. Ladies, introduce yourself, and the floor is yours.
This year I'll remember to get my presentation up first.
Okay, make sure you hit that green button first, and then the presentation, and then we'll roll.
My name is Marissa Christie. I'm the Executive Director of Community Farm Alliance, and I have with me today Jamie Fitzwater.
My name is Jamie Fitzwater, and I'm the Director of Kentucky Double Dollars, our nutrition incentive program here at Community Farm Alliance.
So I was told to go ahead and let you all know who Community Farm Alliance is because you have a lot of new members. So first, I want to thank everyone who's newly serving for inviting us here, and all of you for inviting us here to learn about what we do. Community Farm Alliance is almost as old as I am. It's a few years younger, but it came out of the 1980s farm credit crisis, and it was really to provide a solution to farmers for an issue they were facing and then try to help combat that issue at some level. So it's this short and sweet of it. And what you're going to hear mostly about today on Kentucky Double Dollars is an outgrowth of that. So one of the key things, and I'll keep this short because I know you all have another presentation behind us, but farmers build communities. We sincerely believe that, whether it's a rural community or an urban community, and programs like this and CFA in general, what we're about is supporting farmers, family scale farming, so that they can be part of their communities, that we keep that both in rural and urban communities, and that farm is able to be part of the community and be profitable. And we come up with programs to help make that possible. So I want to go through a few program updates. We're actually working with roadside stands for Kentucky Double Dollars this year. And just real quick, if you all don't know what Kentucky Double Dollars are, for those of you that are new, what it is when someone takes a federal incentive, whether it's SNAP or at a farmer's market, a senior farmer's market nutrition program, or WIC farmer's market nutrition program, and they come to a farmer's market or a retail outlet, or now we have 3 roadside stands, and they swipe their SNAP card, or at a farmer's market they give their senior vouchers or swipe their SNAP cards. We're able to double that money up to a certain amount, and that amount is determined mostly by the farmer's market. And what's unique is we've got federal money supporting the SNAP piece, and Jamie just got back from a conference, and they were like, for that federal money, and they're like, all right, we try to get 1% of our produce like these produce incentives to be local, if that. We were the only people sitting there that's like, and not only did you give us $1 million, but we had $2.6 million of farm gate. So it's very unusual. We have more retail stores onboarding than any previous year. I think we're up to 11 right now. We have expanded. We also have Fresh RX for Moms programs that used to be only for pregnant mothers, which is a seasonal thing. And when you're dealing with seasonal produce, which that program was all produce, it didn't match up well. So we've expanded that to folks on WIC. We're matching our Ag Development Board funds with about $2.2 million of other funding. So we're really trying to leverage as well as we can. I want to be a good investment of the legislature's decision to keep this money in agriculture. With KFAN, we have been working to develop a toolkit for practitioners who want to start local food as medicine programs, because in reality, Kentucky Double Dollars and our Fresh RX for Moms programs, those started out in local communities and they grew, and then we saw the potential to take it statewide, and that's how those grow. So I think supporting more people, and we all know that if you can support something locally, you have a greater stability than relying entirely on federal funding. And right now we have about $4.5 million of economic impact. And if you're like, well, how much money have we given you? So the state's given me, not me, I don't keep it. I told someone I have a lobbyist thing now, and I was like, man, I always thought if I was gonna be a lobbyist, I'd make like the big bucks. But anyway, so we've gotten about, I think right at $1.2 million from the Ag Development Board over the last several years, and about $500,000 of federal so far, $225,000 of private funding, and for that, $2.7 million in direct farm gate impact, and the 4.5 is what happens when those farmers start hiring people. We had a study by UK that said the multiplier is 1.67, which is actually a fairly conservative multiplier when you look at people saying this much is spent in the community. I've seen them at 3 or 5, but I feel better with a conservative estimate. I need to bring an extra person next year to hit my slides for me. So I just wanted to show you over time, the table was getting pretty big as far as from 2017 forward. So what this is over time. So you see the green is the amount of federal incentives, which includes those farmers market incentives as well as SNAP that is spent for the program. That's the total amount. And then stacked on top of that is the Kentucky Double Dollars incentives by year, and then stacked on top of that is the Fresh RX incentives. If you see a big spike at 2021 and wonder like how we're getting back there, that's when the summer EBT cards. So you had just a lot more farmers market customers with SNAP, right? So that enabled, and plus we had extra COVID fund, like there are a lot of things going on right now. We're slowly though, as you can see, climbing our way back up there. So last year, just shy of $700,000 of direct farm gate impact. So what was the purpose of Kentucky Double Dollars? It was to increase farm sales, markets, and profitability for Kentucky farmers, small Kentucky farmers, especially folks. A lot of our folks are beginning farmers. They're not big farmers, and I don't mean just they don't have 500 acres. They may have 10 to 20, and a lot of them are vegetable farmers. These are people who are first-generation farmers, some of them second. You'll see a little mix of both in here as I tell you stories, and it's expanding their customer base. When we're giving people who are on some sort of a nutritional incentive program local food, those are people who may not originally have gotten it, but we also know that 60% of people with children value having local food. That's one of the things they want to purchase, and that's a recent stat from, I think, 2023. So, and we're leveraging, our goal is to continue to leverage federal and private funding with state funding so that it becomes more stable and we're not as reliant on any one source. And we sincerely, I'm not saying that so you can take my money away. We sincerely appreciate it because the stability that you all give us allows us to keep running this program. So business impacts for Kentucky Double Dollars alone, over $350,000 of direct farm impact. 86% of the farms who respond to our surveys say that it has actually increased their market sales. The average farm market sale increase was about $2,500. And when you're dealing with farms whose sales are between $20,000 and $50,000, that's a lot of money. It's a lot. I mean, that's a lot of money for me, honestly, if somebody gave me $2,500 extra dollars a year. And then mid-sized farms saw about small to mid-size, a 16% increase, while large farms saw a smaller increase because it's going to be a smaller piece of their overall sales. This is from Community Farmers Market. I just want to throw this in there. This is someone who, the second generation is now learning to farm and doing things at the market. About 50% of the first and second generation's income is from the farmers market. This particular family also does on-farm sales and has actually developed out a whole hub of supporting about 25 other farmers. They've been at this for a while, and it's part of their mission to support the community and support other farmers. Just some quick, pretty graphics. If you see anything pretty on this presentation, Jamie put it together. I am a numbers, black and white, it's in Times New Roman, 12-point font person. So with the farmers markets that we served, over 1,000 farmers. We stopped counting because we haven't hit 1,500 yet, so somewhere between 1,000 and 1,500. We've gone from 71 locations last year to 80 this year as far as farmers markets. And you've seen those. This is in Ohio County, and you don't think about it unless I've gotten to work with an organization you all previously discussed, like maple syrup and beef. You don't think about it unless you're raising beef cattle on a hilly, potentially forested piece of land, and you know that something I've seen many farmers do is be like, all right, I got trees, I have a cash flow crunch in March when the calves are born, I'm going to need to feed more. What am I going to do? I'm going to tap and sell maple syrup. So, it's really nice to see that. And then also with the Ag Development Board funding, we can't do it with federal, but we can do it with that money is we can do proteins. So we can't do proteins without this money. And I come from beef farmers, well, beef and tobacco, so it's very important to me. One of those things I still use, one I don't. Also, you see, we're able to do proteins in stores, and we have these nice little placards that go there to identify if you're in a store and you have gotten a voucher that you can use that to help increase redemption rates. These are the dark green counties are the ones from last year, and we actually had Jamie just informed me this morning, she keeps these wonderful pieces of news. Everyone who completed an application for Kentucky Double Dollars was accepted at some level this year, so we had 7 new counties. We're working on getting toward the western part of the state. I'm happy for any of you representatives that have connections with your farmers markets or senators to follow up with me and see what we can do. I just include this. So these are all from reports. We don't go out and take pictures. This is 2.5 people doing this program. So this is what the pictures we get are the farmers markets sending them to us. So this is Tina. She has a high tunnel. She said that because people had that money to spend more on produce and fresh herbs, which are eligible, they were able to buy other things that may not be eligible, like value-added products, like jam, because things that have added salt and sugar aren't eligible for the program. So, it frees up some money for folks to be able to buy fun stuff that still tastes good and is local. So the Farmers Market Support Program, while we talk about Kentucky Double Dollars, and it's so easy to see the economic impact, the Farmers Market Support Program builds the backbone, because if you don't have farmers markets functioning well, then they cannot do the amount of reporting required to do one of these programs, especially on the federal level. So for every place that accepts SNAP and is part of the federal funding, we have to have a monthly total of all their SNAP data, report that individually to the National Institute of Food and Agriculture, and they have to scrub it all of being able to see if which SNAP cards are used. So our Farmers Market Support Program helps folks be able to do that by funding part of a market manager. It's not a lot of money. Jamie, how much was it's
About 2,000.
between $1,500 and $2,000, and then they have to match that dollar for dollar. But it helps increase market sustainability, things like vendor retention, making sure the market's following their own rules. I don't know if you all know, if you throw a lot of farmers in a room, there are a lot of folks who are new to farming that have worked with me over the years, like, oh, farmers markets, sing kumbaya, hold hands. It's like, you've obviously never been on the tobacco warehouse in Winchester when your grandfather's tobacco was not graded as he thought it should be. The most mild-mannered man I've ever seen was, we'll just say, very upset. So, when you get to pricing and competition, things can go wrong. So we started the Farmers Market Resiliency Project. We had 11 markets in 2024, affecting about 100 farmers. And those are farmers who worked with us, KCARD that you just heard about, Center for Crop Diversification, Grow Appalachia, and others, to be able to understand like their board structure, bylaws, best practices, keeping your minutes, all of those things, setting rules. Looking at funding sources, we did actually a marketing workshop over the winter with KCARD and had them write marketing plans for their farmers markets and rewarded them by a very nice 10 by 10 tent. So if you look at this, we've gone from in 2023 about $39,000 of funds to this year we're up to about $65,000 of funds, and we know that they've matched at least as much. I don't think they often report all of the match they bring in because $2,000 to have someone work all summer or potentially year-round is not a lot, even part-time. So they're bringing in more funds. So Pathway to Future Impact, Fresh RX for Moms, it's doing really well. Figuring out how to help leverage more funding with that is something that I'm looking at. We have moved it from just being at farmers markets to being at places where moms already go. I am the mother of twins. I am fairly well supported. Well, they're older now, Representative King. But what I'm thinking of is that before 5 years old, if I had to go to farmers markets to get free vegetables, I probably wouldn't. I can tell you my farmers market use went down when I had tiny babes. So doing things like places that mothers already go, get it there. We have some folks piloting delivery, and then we get to like an 80 or 90% or even 100% participation rate. But we have to find other funding to do that. We're not using your funding for that piece, just the vegetables. And then piloting directly bundled things. growing local food as medicine programs, because those can actually help them support themselves. We're not using state funds to do that, but it is something that we're doing. And that's also a piece, we've worked with the Kentucky Food Action Network, which Melissa will tell you from Feeding Kentucky as well. We're two of the partners in that, developing a practitioner toolkit for folks that want to implement it, as well as a roadmap to food as medicine. And that's been underway for a few years. We didn't just invent that recently. We've been working on that for a while. Other things like having places like Locals Food Hub, they were able to get more support, so they've tripled the amount of local stuff that folks can buy. They've now got it in Louisville and in Frankfort, and they have a grocery store there that people can come into. And that's actually, I think, a box. It's like, if you want $20 worth of stuff, here you go. They've been bundling it. And this is in Woodford County. This is Ariel, and the tokens are not paper, but the incentives that go with the senior and WIC farmers market incentives, those are paper. And she said the kids really like to pay with that, and it's teaching them how to pay for things. So it's also, and I will tell you, the reason that I recycle is because I was taught to recycle when I was about 8 years old. And I feel like we're just training the next generation of consumers of where to come get good food and be connected to your community. And these are all the wonderful people who have supported this program. We thank each one of them. And just to leave you on a high note, I didn't reuse my picture of the baby eating the carrot this year, but this is Michael Greathouse. I think his farm is in Woodford County. He sells at the Midway, maybe Woodford County Farmers Market. But he was the picture of him serenading customers with a ukulele. Really, I was like, let's leave on a high note. So that's it. Ready for questions?
Okay. Well, thank you so much for this presentation. Very informative. I love the personal touches of people who are obviously involved in our local farmers markets. I know in Taylor County, we've got a farmers market every Saturday morning, just very, very active. Last week, they had a little bit of a twist, come pet the reptile along with the farmers market morning. And so my grandson obviously was fired up about that, since he had a a bearded dragon and now a ball python, needless to say. So good deal. Appreciate your hard work. And again, I love the presentation this morning. Floor's open for any questions. Anyone? Representative Rourke.
Thank you, Chair. I did want to ask, I'm not familiar with FarmGate. Could you share with us what FarmGate is and how it connects to the overall budget?
I've talked to the Ag Development Board too many times over the years. So what FarmGate impact is, that means that those dollars went directly into farmers' pockets. So you're looking at $2.7 million that were directly into farmers' pockets. That's not like we spent this money on the program or anything. That is a SNAP dollar, a voucher dollar, Kentucky Double Dollars. It went directly into farmers market, in farmers' pockets.
Thank you. Chair, may I ask a brief follow-up?
Absolutely.
Thank you. So as you know, we're headed into our next budget year. I think you did a good job explaining about the diversification of your dollars. Is there anything that from a state perspective we need to be maybe prepared for with any anticipated impacts from federal government sides of funding? I'm very encouraged, obviously, by the kind of direct back into farmers' pockets nature of this program, and I think that's really important that we're getting the most nutrient-dense food into the hands of people who need it the most, and obviously that comes at a certain cost, and we want to make sure it's affordable. So could you just share with us anything that relates to the budget?
Before, we have done the Healthy Food and Farm Finance Initiative, and that could possibly be a way to support it, but right now, with keeping the Ag Development Board funding and understanding that, the biggest impact will be if there are dramatic cuts to SNAP, then we don't have anything to match. I was telling someone earlier, then it becomes more important for retailers. If they're competing for SNAP dollars, it may give us leverage to get into retailers because, hey, if people come shop at your independently owned grocery store, you can double their SNAP dollars, because most retailers are independently owned or like an IGA that we have. So as far as the budget, the interesting thing is, and I can let Jamie talk about it if she wants, but when she was at the national conference for people who are awarded this federal money, everybody's like, oh my goodness, we've got to do local food because that's going to be the next wave. And I was like, that is our innovation. That's our calling card. So I don't know if you want to say anything else about that.
Yeah, we're hopeful that because we have so much farm impact that we will continue to find funding for this program. We have seen GusNIP funding canceled in other states this year, but Kentucky has been safe so far. So,
yeah, I feel better now than I did a few months ago. I can put it that way.
Great questions. Any others? Well, thank you, ladies, so much for your presentation, and good stuff. Thank you.
Thank you. We appreciate your time and your investment.
Thank you. So, carrying on the theme this morning of food, obviously food is medicine, we have Feeding Kentucky here with us this morning. Good morning. Once you get settled in, introduce yourself, and the floor is yours.
Well, we will too remember to pull up our slides. While Sarah's getting that ready, I will go ahead and introduce myself. I am a new face for many of you that have been around with Feeding Kentucky since we existed. My name is Melissa McDonald. I am the executive director. I joined Feeding Kentucky in 2023 in October and have had the pleasure to be able to lead this group and to be able to bring additional support to our state around addressing hunger. I'm a native Kentuckian, grew up in Lexington, and have been in the nutrition, feeding children healthy foods for the past 20 years in the public health sector.
And hello, everyone. Thank you so much for having us today. My name is Sarah Vaughn, and I am the programs director for Feeding Kentucky. And basically, I oversee all of our food procurement that we do at the organization.
So just the same thing. So some of you all might not be as familiar with Feeding Kentucky. Thought we would give you a quick overview. But first of all, thank you for inviting us. We're thrilled to be able to have the opportunity to speak to you. But number one, to thank you for the support that you've provided Feeding Kentucky and all of our neighbors facing hunger across the state in all 120 counties. The impact has been amazing, and we're excited to be able to share some of that with you today. Feeding Kentucky is the state's largest charitable organization. We are built to be able to help support the 7 food banks that are across the state that cover our 120 counties. Right now, we're averaging about 950, almost 1,000 partner agencies that are in those 120 counties. So the food banks are the support system for those partner agencies, and a partner agency could be anywhere from a church pantry to a soup kitchen to a CSFP or a senior meal box, food box distribution. And then most recently, probably within the past 2 to 3 years, we've seen an amazing increase in school pantries. And so those food banks are able to help support and actually be kind of their grocery store to be able to provide the food to those partner agencies. We, as Feeding Kentucky, bring support in terms of the kind of the money holder for the Farms to Food Bank dollars that the General Assembly graciously has provided Feeding Kentucky, and to be able to make sure that our food banks are able to provide local fresh fruits and vegetables to our neighbors experiencing hunger. We also have the Kentucky Kids Eat program, which I'll go over in just a minute. And then we also do some advocacy along with leading our food banks in terms of serving a spot on the VOAD team with our disaster relief. And so that's been an amazing opportunity to be able to bring that. 21 was when we really started seeing an increase. And sadly, Sarah has been very busy in serving those VOAD evening calls over the past 3 months, from almost a monthly deal, it feels like.
And just so you all know, VOAD stands for Voluntary Organizations Active in Disaster. It includes like the Red Cross, Salvation Army, things like that.
Thank you. So here's just a map to show you where the reach is. We have the main food banks that are physically located in our state as their God's Pantry, Feeding America, Kentucky Heartland, which their distribution center is located in Elizabethtown. And then we have Dare to Care that's in Louisville. We also share some food banks that cross over into Kentucky from other states. We have Facing Hunger Food Bank that's located in Huntington, West Virginia. And they cross over and cover those 4 counties. They actually share Martin County with God's Pantry, but they cross over and help take care of those counties. Then we also have Free Store Food Bank, which is in Cincinnati, and they cross over and take care of the Northern Kentucky region. And then we have Tri-State Food Bank in Evansville, Indiana, crosses over and takes care of that a little pocket of Henderson, Owensboro area. And then we also have PAD, which we always want to make sure we point out, the Purchase Area Development District, that they have really been able to evolve into more of a food bank model. And so we do consider them a food bank, and they're part of our group, and we bring support to them as well. And of course, they cover that most further west area. So, I don't ever like to focus on negatives. So I want to stay here just for the impact piece of it and understanding that we're facing hunger more than we've ever faced. We are hitting right now about 16.6 of Kentuckians are struggling with not knowing where their next meal is going to come from. We have some statistic that we don't like, top numbers we don't like being part of. We really like being number one in the good way. We actually have 4 of our counties are actually in the top 10 in the nation of being the most food insecure or having the most food insecure residents. I did highlight some of these counties that are in the top. And you can see they are in some of the most rural eastern parts of our state. And then the other area is to understand with children. We have some of the highest rates of childhood food insecurity. We have some areas in our state where we're averaging 1 in 3. 1 in 3 children in some of these rural communities in eastern Kentucky that are really, really struggling with not knowing where the families, not knowing how they're going to be able to feed those children. I'll turn it over to Sarah to talk about the Lovely Farms to Food Bank program.
Okay. Well, for more than a decade, Farms to Food Banks has helped Kentucky farmers get excess produce into the hands of those who need it. We're operated largely by the support from the Tobacco Settlement Oversight Committee, and 100% of the funds used to procure food of the state funding goes back to support farmers directly. So there's no admin dollars taken out of that. But just to give you kind of an overview of what we've accomplished since the program first began, we've distributed, and when I say we, I'm talking about collectively everybody, not just who's sitting here today, but all the farmers, all the food banks, and the people who work at those food banks, and then also the people who help fund us. So, but we distributed over 37.2 million pounds of Kentucky grown produce. That's anything from apples to zucchini, I like to say. We have worked with 4,473 farmers. Those are counted across multiple years. So if the farmer participated twice, 2 different years, then they would be counted twice. But in total, $8.9 million has been reimbursed to Kentucky farmers. And just this past budget cycle, so 2024 to 2025, we've distributed so far, and we're still acquiring produce right now, but we've distributed 2.7 million pounds of produce, which equates to about 4.5 million meals, and $874,000 of that is state funds that went straight back to Kentucky farmers.
And before she flips the slide, I do want to point out a really interesting, so the 4.5 million meals. So just to give you an idea of what that equates to, when Feeding America and other charitable food organizations will use that term, it's looking at 1.2 pounds of food. And so that's kind of what they're considering as the meal. And then if you just think in terms of how many meals across the state of Kentucky were distributed through the Charitable Food Network within the Feeding Kentucky network, we're looking at 86.6 million meals was distributed. And so it was really exciting to see that 4.5, the dollars that you all and the General Assembly are able to appropriate for the for the Farms to Food Bank program, to think that that's local is pretty impressive.
And to give you all a little bit, just a general overview of how the Farms to Food Banks program works. So a farmer would contact our office whenever they have excess produce that they are having trouble distributing. It might be a cucumber that's a little large, or maybe a misshapen zucchini or an apple with a blemish on it, something like that that's still fresh and edible and perfectly safe to eat. And the farmer would contact us, and then our office helps coordinate, like figure out which food bank is closest to them, set up a delivery date and time for them to take their product to the food bank. And then from there, the food bank will receive it, weigh it, inspect it for quality, and then forward the paperwork over to our office for a reimbursement. And the funds that we provide to the farmer is intended to cover their cost of harvesting and labor, packaging, and transportation. And this is a quote from Lisa Worth from Worth Farms in Paducah. She said, "The food banks have provided us a way to distribute our overages and recoup the costs associated with production. We can still feed people without as much waste." And I've heard from many farmers over the years. It's been nearly 10 years since I've been at Feeding Kentucky, and I've met a lot of farmers throughout the years. And one thing that they keep saying is that this program helps, it gives them some peace of mind, because they know that if their market falls through, or if something happens, that we will be able to take it and give them something for it to help cover their costs, and they don't have to throw it away.
And just one other fact that I'll throw in there, Sarah. I want to give Sarah lots of props. The other big thing that we do is we really make sure that the distribution, so we work with our food banks based on a goal factor, which I cannot really explain the calculations because it's through Feeding America. But we make sure that the food is distributed kind of from an equal perspective and how many people those food banks serve. And so a large portion of that food, and it all stays in the state of Kentucky, by the way, but a lot of that food is distributed to our three main food banks, the God's Pantry, Dare to Care, and Feeding America Kentucky Heartland. So just to kind of, if you're kind of wondering where the food goes to, and then they, of course, are the ones that send it out to their partner agencies.
Yes, thank you for mentioning that, Melissa, because like God's Pantry that serves 50 counties in central and eastern Kentucky would obviously get the lion's share of the produce than a food bank that serves 4 Kentucky counties, for example.
And I thought I would just add a few more slides in just to kind of give you an overview of the remainder part of our organization. So our Kentucky Kids Eat program, we work very closely with the Department of Education, the Department of Community-Based Services, and the Kentucky School Nutrition Association in making sure that we want to give all kids opportunity to have food 375 days a year. And so that means coming up with creative ways to market breakfast, or creative ways to promote the summer EBT benefit that came out a few years ago. There's great opportunities for summer feeding. You might have already heard that in seen some social media posts of advertising for families that need meals during the summer to show up for a distribution. We work in conjunction with the No Kid Hungry campaign, which is actually part of the Share Our Strength national nonprofit. And that is what provides us those dollars to to be able to have the Kentucky Kids Eat program that works directly with our Kentucky schools and those other state departments. And then you heard from Marissa with CFA that we are very proud to be partners with the KFAN, the Kentucky Food Action Network. It's Community Farm Alliance, Feeding Kentucky, KY Policy, and Kentucky Equal Justice, and we all work together to be able to have a member base that can do grassroots advocacy, that can make sure that they bring their community voices to the table to be heard around addressing food insecurity and hunger. And then in March of 2025, Feeding Kentucky actually stepped into an administrative role, so we actually kind of lead the oversight of the KFAN program in partnership with those other nonprofits. And then we were able and very proud to be able to be part of the Humana Foundation grant that Marissa mentioned that has been able to develop a roadmap for food as medicine in Kentucky, so that we've been able to send out surveys and focus groups that have asked to see what type of food as medicine programs are happening in your community, and then how can we promote that, and how can practitioners turn around and how can they be part of it. So you may see this roadmap pop up in a social media feed, or if you're working with any healthcare agencies, you may hear about it. If you have any that would be interested in learning more about this roadmap and what we've been able to collect the past 2 years, please let Marissa or myself know. We'd be happy to get that in their hands. And then just lastly, thank you again. This is just a group of our supporters for Feeding Kentucky, but then also definitely for our Farmers Feeding Kentucky, which are kind of our overarching food sourcing program that we have.
Thank you so much for your presentation and your information. I know a lot of us on this committee help serve at the Feeding Kentucky, fundraiser that we have here when we're in session from time to time, and I appreciate that opportunity. But I know my schools are involved in the summer programs to feed, and it's so essential. I mean, obviously, food and water is essential for all of us, and there's nothing more heartbreaking to me than someone being hungry, especially children.
Yes,
you know? And so our farmers, I think, is truly the heartbeat of the act of kindness, the act of serving, providing our food that we all need to have. And we appreciate that farmer.
Wonderful.
And we appreciate you so much. Any questions, committee members? Any? Okay, Representative Rourke.
I'm feeling chatty today.
It's fine.
Wanted to ask, how are we currently defining food insecurity?
That's a really good question. We're looking at the statistics in terms of when they're able to get their meals. You kind of stumped me right this moment. Because through the USDA, we're able to gather the data. And Sarah, you might be able to help me with this. I literally have gone.
Well, food insecurity just means that you lack consistent access to a reliable source. Like, you may not know where your next meal is coming from. It doesn't necessarily mean that you haven't eaten anything. It's just that you might have to eat something that's not as nutritious for your body than because it's more affordable or it's what you have. That's kind of the difference between
Hunger.
Food insecurity and hunger.
Okay. And then just wanted to also ask, you mentioned if we know of a farmer who has extra produce and would like to participate in the Farm to Food Bank program, what is the best way for them to get in contact with your office?
By contact, they can contact either myself or our info at feedingky.org. We monitor both of those inboxes, and just reach out to us and mention that you're interested in participating in the Farms to Food Banks program. And it's really easy to get signed up. It's just a one-page sheet of paper certifying that they are a Kentucky farmer, that the product they're providing is something that they grew themselves, and then they're good to go pretty much. So,
and I would say that if they already have a partnership with a pantry, maybe they volunteer. maybe they know that it's literally the church that they go to, is to show the interest to them. And then if they're connected with a food bank, we can work through the network. And so if it's not immediately figuring out, because I do have to say there are, technology sometimes can be a barrier. And so word of mouth can also spread beautifully.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Seeing none, staff, thank you for the agenda today. It was a very good and informative meeting. We have a comment from Representative Pfister.
Not so much a comment, but I would want to apologize for my tardiness and register my presence.
Okay.
And I don't know if it was mentioned previously or not, but Representative McPherson is not here today because his daughter is giving birth to his newest granddaughter. So if you see him, congratulate him. Thank you, sir.
We sure will. Thank you for that.
Thank you so much, committee.
Absolutely. Seeing anything else, members, take note. Next meeting is July the 10th, scheduled July the 10th. So just keep your eyes open and ears to maybe in a change there. But anyway, thank you all. Have a great day. This meeting